everyone? So, Rally to War is just around the corner, and if you guys are like me, you're getting a box or two, and you're gonna have tons of commons laying around. So, today I figured we'll go over the best common cards in this set. And due to the length of the last two videos, I'm only picking out two, not doing honorable mentions, etc. etc. So, before we get started, I am using the Dragoracle site for most of these cards, so be sure to go over and check them out. Link is in the description down below, as well as a link to the Facebook page, and we do have over 1,000 members, so if you want to join the community and just have some fun chatting and need some assistance with deck building or anything else like that, go over there and check that out. And my Twitter's down there below. If you want to talk to me there, go ahead and tweet at me. If not, I've been having a blast chatting with you guys down in the comments. But let's jump right into this. So first up, we have a card that everyone knows. It was in the demo deck, it was in Alpha Dominance, it's Logres Swiftblade. This card is phenomenal. It stops a lot of stuff that is going to be problematic, such as Expedition Merfolk, if I can talk, Teriel. It doesn't stop Darion, but if he is not rested, he's going to have to destroy himself to stop Logres Swiftblade's attack. And it's a 2-cost with 3 attack. So, I mean, that's pretty good. However, the 1 endurance does get him destroyed by Carefree Orc and anything else that he blocks, but he's not going to be blocking. He's going to be your attacker. So you usually don't want to play him first turn. He's usually good like turn 2, turn 3, and then pushing in. And if you're playing against a yellow deck that focuses on Teriel, then he's going to be amazing in the late game. So yeah, this is probably one of these cards that I'm going to hunt down the foil versions, even though I'm trying to stay cheap in this game, but this card's just amazing, and I have really grown to like this card. But next up for yellow, we've got Stoneskin Charger, and this was actually one of the first cards ever revealed, if you guys even remember that. It's a 3-drop with 4 attack, 2 endurance, and he cannot block, so this is not a card that you want to play on your first turn. And his Dragocross yellow ability is this creature's attack must be blocked if able. So it does kind of force your opponent to trade, because when he's Dragocross, he's going to be a 5-3. And he's going to be taking out almost anything, barring like Sunskill Dragon or Terrax. But I do think that this card is going to be underrated, and I think it is worth using the ones that you have laying around. Definitely not a 4 of, but I think 2 would be worth it. I mean, it does have decent stats for being a 3-drop. So moving on to the green cards, I was struggling to pick out some common cards from green. I felt like their rares and double rares were a lot better, but Growing Touch was one that I felt was worth picking up, and if you're buying a box, you're probably going to have plenty laying around. So the effect is to put the top card of your deck into your resource zone. So you're only playing 1 for this, technically speaking, and then reference a yellow 5-6, you can put the top card of your deck into the resource zone, and then put one of your resources on the top of your deck. So this is one of those times where you could actually set up a play with Researcher. You could use it to put Terrax or Zero on top of your deck from your resource zone, and then play a spell if you have Researcher on the field, and that'll be one of the 3 cards that you flip, and you get to summon it. So there's some cool synergy there. And then I'm not quite sure on the way that it would resolve, but if you already had Researcher on the field and you play this, I believe you could summon the card that you put back on top of your deck. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. If not, I might just try to find out for myself. But yeah, I do think this card does have some potential, and even if you aren't using it in Researcher, that will be your next draw. So you're guaranteed to draw that card on your next turn, and if it was a card that you need, then you want to play this card. And I think this card is better in some combo-based decks where you want to see specific cards, and then this guarantees that they're not all going to be locked in your resource zone. Then the other one that I picked out is Timid Scout. So the reason I picked this out is because of the 4 endurance. This is going to be lasting into the mid game. It's a great defender, and it does 1 damage when it blocks. So early game, it's going to be taking out a lot of stuff. I mean, Logar Swiftblade gets past this, and that's why he's so great. But anything else that attacks with only 1 endurance is probably going to be dropping to this. And this card will be surviving because of that high endurance. So even though it's a vanilla, I do think that this is a pretty decent card. So now, moving on to the blue. First up, I chose Expedition Merfolk. It's a 1-drop blue card, and when the creature is destroyed, you can choose a creature and rest it. So, it's essentially like Kingslayer B, where it takes 1 attack and then rests another creature. However, with Kingslayer B, you do get to keep that creature on board, where Expedition Merfolk does die. And it's another card that Logar Swiftblade gets around, and another one of your cards won't be rested. But only being a 1-drop, this could provide a lot of, it could provide a struggle for your opponent early on, because they have to spend 2 attackers to get through this, or you could choose one of their blockers at their last remaining fort to rest instead. So there is a lot of potential for this card, I believe, and it does have a drag across green ability. However, I don't think it's as useful as the first ability, but if it's drag across green and it's destroyed, it gets to go into your resource zone. So that would be really awesome if you were able to pull it off. However, I don't know how often that is going to work, simply because you're probably going to be playing this in a control deck and you're going to want to be using your Drago shields instead of Drago crossing. For the next blue card, I think Displacer is an amazing card. For only a 2-drop, you get to choose 2 opposing creatures and exchange their positions. So this is huge going against control decks. Specifically talking about mono yellow or anything using yellow, it gets over Teriel, it gets over Darion. The biggest one being Darion. This is one of the only cards that can deal with that because you get to move it to another fort, and I think that is awesome. And it gets over Teriel as well, simply because Teriel won't be able to block. It gets over Expedition Merfolk, and just any problematic cards. Keeper, there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to be attacking into, and this just simply moves them out of the way. So I think this is a really interesting card, and then as an added bonus, if you have a blue one, you get to draw a card. So, I mean, that's kind of cool that it replaces itself, but I don't think that is as necessary as getting the first effect off. So now we're going to be moving on to red, and the first one I chose was Explosive Counter. At first, I was kind of disappointed by the effect, but then I realized that this could really be amazing in a low-cost aggressive deck, simply because it boosts all of your creatures up by 5, and if they're already going to be having 1 attack, that's going to be a 6x creature, which will be taking anything it blocks down with it. So imagine having this in front of a Goblin Madcap. That is going to be a 6/1 Goblin Madcap that will take down the attacking creature and do 3 damage to a Drago Shield. So I do see a lot of potential for this card. However, I'm not sure it's going to live up to that. But I am definitely going to be trying to play with this card and see if I can do some cool stuff with it. And the next red card I chose was Goblin Toe Stabber. This is a decent card. I mean, we saw it in the Shadow Legion deck, and I wasn't that big of a fan of it, but I do think it has some potential if your opponent gets unlucky. Plus, it is only a 1-drop, so even having that ability isn't that bad. And then if they roll a 2, and you already have another creature on board, you can summon this, drop it to a 1, attack with this to deal the 1 damage, and then attack with your other creature, and you've essentially destroyed their Drago Shield just using this card, even though it's a 1-drop. So I think that's kind of cool. And now moving on to the black cards. Grave Champion is one of those amazing cards that I think is going to be underrated simply because you have to destroy one of your own creatures, and that's a heavy cost to play after already paying 4. But if your opponent only has one of their really good cards left, then they're going to have to destroy that. Like, say in an extreme example, they attacked into your fort and you flipped Leilania's Call as a fort burst, summoned Zarko, and were able to blow up everything except their 0. Then on your turn, you can summon Grave Champion, blow up one of your other creatures, and their only card is 0, and they have to destroy that card. So it is one of the few cards that would let you get over 0, given that very specific scenario. But I still think this is a great card in general, combos well with Goblin Madcap, or anything else that has effects when they're destroyed. And then the last common card that I picked out is Despair. I think this is a really cool card in terms that you get to make your opponent discard a random card. And playing this in a low-cost deck, you're gonna swarm the field with creatures, and then you aren't really gonna want to summon anything else. So that's when Despair comes in handy. You can just pay 2 for this, and then make your opponent discard. And if you hit one of their better cards, then that's gonna really impact the game. And you do have to siphon one for part of the cost, but I don't think that's too big of a deal, especially since it's only one. But yeah, let me know what cards you guys agree with, what cards you think I missed, and what card you are most excited to pick up. I don't know what day this is going to be uploaded, but hopefully soon my boxes will get here and I'll be able to dig into that for you guys and get some openings going on the channel. So yeah, not quite sure how much more content is going to be going up after this before Rally to War comes out, simply because we've seen all of the revealed cards. There's just one vanilla, which I'm not going to talk about. And yeah, I mean, we've already discussed the trial decks as much as possible. And speaking of that, if you do want to hear some more trial deck discussion, go over to Hunter Surge's channel and check out his Dragoborne Weekly if you haven't already. There is a link in probably one of the previous videos. If not, I'll link it down here. But yeah, I've been added as one of the rotating members there. So if you want to hear someone else's thoughts on this as opposed to mine, that's a great place to go and check that out. But anyways, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.